Hi all, so welcome back to the final of the Chessable Masters 2020. Earlier today I showed the first game of the rapid section, which was beautifully played and won by Magnus. But it has been a day full of drama, tension and blunders, as you could have seen in the thumbnail, with Magnus banging his head on the table and Anish holding his head in disbelief. So the first game was won by Magnus, and the second and the third game of the Rapid was a draw. So I'm gonna show you the fourth game of the Rapid with Anish Giri in the white pieces and Magnus with the black. And Anish has to win to keep the match alive as he is 2-1 down. So let's get started. Anish opens with d4. We have knight to f6, so the Indian game. c4, e6, knight to f3, d5, knight to c3 now. And well, in earlier games, the Magnus would have played c5. Here he plays c6, the semi-Slav defense. So we have bishop to g5 now. There are lots of options here like e3 or taking on d5, but Anish tries bishop to g5, knight b to d7, and now e3. We have queen to a5 now, and knight to d2. We have takes on c4, takes and takes on f6, and knight takes on c6 with the queen retreating to c7. Anish continues with rook to c1, makes sense to develop your rook. We have bishop to e7, g3 now by white, castles, bishop to g2, and rook to d8. And now Anish castles. With bishop to d7 and now e4. So all pieces are developed. Magnus' pieces are quite passive with his bishop on d7 not doing more than just a pawn, bishop on e7 not looking too healthy also. And Anish has a nice control of the center. His pieces are quite active and he has a nice diagonal for his bishop for now. So we prefer white in this position purely based on active pieces. So we have b5 by Magnus, and now knight to e3. And this is actually a position which Anish has had on the board before in 2013 when he played Sune Berg Hansen. So we have queen to d6, b6 now, and e5 pushing his pawn. Knight to d5 and knight to e4. So the position is pretty closed here, making this a bishop even worse than it was before. So we have bishop to e8 now, and we have a3. Not wanting any tricks like the knight coming to b4 perhaps, or if maybe Anish wants to play queen to c2 or d3, and then you don't want to have to worry about this knight coming there. So you have a5 by Magnus, gonna attack on the queen side, and now queen to d3. We have rook to a7 now, maybe helping out with the defense of the pawns on the king side when this bishop moves, or maybe he wants to double his rooks, who knows. We have knight to c5, and now a4. We have bishop to e4, now eyeing that h7 pawn, and h6. We have rook f to d1 now, and queen to b8. So again, if you look at this position, the position is quite closed actually, which just favors white because white has more room and he has a very strong bishop now. He has a very strong knight, and the only good piece black has actually is the knight on d5. Um, his queen is not helping anything, and yeah, you gotta favor white even more in this position. So you have queen to e2 now, and b4. Magnus realized he has to bust open the position to gain some more activity, and now knight to g4. Um, Giri Anish saying, I need to win. I'm going to attack on the king side. Whatever you do on the queen side, I don't care. So it takes on a3, and now the bishop takes on c5. It looks kind of forced, but this knight is just very strong. And if Magnus has any ideas of attacking on the queen side, he needs, for example, this b7 square. So he takes on c5 with rook takes, and now rook to b7. Now the knight is gone. He can actually play his rook here, and the b file is for Magnus. We have bishop to c2 now, with a double idea of picking up this pawn, but also with the idea of battery to h7, and knight to e7 now. And this allows for a very nice trick for Anish. This knight wants to come to the defense of the king side, because Magnus can smell something is going on there, of course. But this allows a very nice move by Anish, and he played knight to e7 with check. And we have to calculate this precisely on what is the correct move for Magnus to play. What happens if you take? Well, if you take, white will take back, and after knight to g6, it's maybe you think you can hold this, but you won't, because after queen to e3, now h6 is hanging, and if you want to defend it with, say, like knight king to e7, this actually loses very quickly to rook to h5, and then you cannot stop the incoming checkmate. So you cannot play the king to h7, but you could play the queen to d6, and if you play rook to h5 now, it can be met by queen to d8. So instead here you would play h4, and after you defend the pawn, you'll have h5. And the thing is, you cannot move the knight anymore. There is no square available. If you go to h8 or something, you just hit queen to e4, and another threat of checkmate, and you have to move the knight back again. So there is no way to move the knight. So your best option is just to play rook b to d7. And now white is just in complete control of the game. He can take this piece. He can take a pawn there. It doesn't matter. So it is a very favorable position for white. So you cannot really capture the knight here. So after knight to f6, Magnus played king to f8, which is also the move recommended by the engine. And we have queen to g4 now, with the simple plan of knight to h5 and queen to takes g7 checkmate. We have rook to b5, trying to get maybe some counter play in. And we have knight to h5 now, with g6 being played by Magnus. If you play knight to g6, you just force takes, and after knight to f4 and maybe bishop to f6, you get in such a position, which is just, what can you do? It's just completely winning for white. Even though it kind of looks okay. If you look at if you just count the pawns, you'll see that Anish would be 2 pawns up, which are 2 connected pawns here. So it's that's not looking good as well. So you don't really want to play the knight there. So Magnus played just g6, and now we have queen to f4. With the idea of, again, there is a threat of checkmate. So if you want to defend, you'll have to play something like knight to g8, defending the f6 square, or what Magnus played, and that's the knight to f5. However, this just it just completely loses the game, and I'm gonna give you a few seconds if you can find out the right move order for Anish to finish the game in this position. So what is recommended here is just taking on b5, and after you take here, you can take the knight. And the problem is that you cannot recapture. If you recapture, you just get completely destroyed here. Um, uh, with well, just as an example, this line. Well, it's completely crushing. You'll lose a lot of material, or you get mated. So you cannot take. So instead, you'll have to play g5, and after queen to c1, for example, takes here, h4, and the game continues, but the black's position is in shambles. White is a few pawns up, and yeah, I'm just playing the moves recommended by the engine here, but you can see it's the position of white is amazing. So yeah, what happened in the game is what Anish played is rook to b5 and takes on f5. Magnus played g5 now, and at this point in the game, the engine give Anish a +5 score, +5. Um, Anish played queen to f3. We have takes on f5 now, and we have now queen takes f5. And unfortunately for Anish, this just completely blundered the game. And I can tell you, this was the moment of the thumbnail where you see him holding his head. What Magnus played next is queen to e2, and now it is just game over. Um, there are two pieces under attack. You cannot defend them both, so you will lose one. And after rook to c1, Magnus captured on h5, and now Magnus is just a full piece up. So there is nothing really Anish can do anymore. He tried queen to f6, but after the pawn was taken, the best Anish could do was a draw by repetition. And it wasn't this king to f8 move where the game was drawn. Um, yeah, so with this score, Magnus also won the second set and actually has won the Chessable Masters 2020. But it could have been so different after in game two he made a move which just completely blundered the game. He banged his head on the table, but Anish missed the winning sequence. In game three, Anish had a better or even a winning position as well, but couldn't just wasn't able to convert it. And here in game four, Anish was totally winning as well, but couldn't convert it. So yeah, it's a miracle that games 2, 3, and 4 of the Rapids ended in a draw, but they did. And Magnus won the Chessable Masters. In the end, I think it's a well-deserved victory. I think he played amazing during all these weeks, and it is and with that first game of today, it's a well-deserved victory. And it's good to see Anish in the final, and it's good to see they had a really tough fight, high tension with blunders from each side. So that was great to see, great entertainment. But yeah, this was the last game of the Chessable Masters. Um, I hope you enjoyed it. I really do. I really enjoyed covering it, and I will definitely cover the next tournament also, which is called Legends in the Magnus Carlsen Invitational, and it will start on July 21st. So it is in 2.5 weeks where we will continue with the Magnus Carlsen Invitational. Meanwhile, I have many other plans and many more games to cover, so please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you again in the next one.